Greetings and welcome back everyone to Robocraft and to the first episode in my new series, the Dapper build series, in which I will be building a bot that was suggested by and voted on by the Dapperlings. Now, this first episode will be building a T6 plasma cruiser. I have no other particular restrictions, just that it needs to be in T6, it needs to be a cruiser, so that suggests wheels, and it should be armed with plasma, which I guess in the end is actually quite a lot of restrictions, but we'll start, as always we do, with a basic skeleton, a basic idea of what we're going to design, and for this one, I'm going to build it out. I'll also put the mirror line down. I'm going to build it out too tall, the spine of this vehicle. Now, I'm thinking, although this always introduces a bit of a structural vulnerability, I'd like the vehicle cockpit to be closer towards the back than towards the front. Perhaps somewhere around here, I'm thinking. With this coming out just a little bit more. We may need to shave this off a bit just to shorten it, depending, because we might not have the CPU to be able to build a bot this large because of the tier CPU caps. We may come a cropper there. Now, the next part is to add in our all-important wheels and to decide also how many wheels. Now, quite often, I build vehicles that have a certain type of shape to them. Either a six-wheeled vehicle, where we might have a short, not so wide wheel gap at the front, kind of a moderate one in the middle, and then a much larger one at the back, so it's a bit of a triangle. Also, another design that I've sometimes gone for is something like this, where you've got a middle set of wheels that come out a fair bit. But, you know what? I've very, very, very rarely done the opposite of that, like a concave curve, rather than have the curve coming out to give it a kind of fat middle. We could have something like this. In fact, I've quite rarely done this as well. About 4. So we want the other one there. So we'll have 2 central wheels and 2 larger outer wheels. Now, we're going to need to be building this primarily in T6. Let's go for steering wheels. We want some steering wheels at the front. In fact, before we do that, how about we do something a little better with where the actual wheels are going to be sitting. Let's bring these down a bit on each side. I do like the new build sounds. Right, there we go. So we want T6 steering wheels once again. We've only got 2 of these as well, so we're going to need to go and buy a couple more. Where are the T6? The steering wheels. Buy 4 of those, and we'll buy 4 of these as well. There we go. Right. Steering wheels on both the forward and the back. And then drive wheels on the 2 middle positions. Here and here. Right, that's the basic design for the cruiser. Now, this is going to give us an awful lot of space to build up our actual weapon systems. Now, before we get to that, though, I would like to build up the cockpit area specifically. And we've already run out of... No, we haven't. Ooh, what happened there, then? Why couldn't I place that? Oh, there we go. Right, so we want to build up the cockpit area specifically, so that I can have a nice window to look out from and be shot from, as I'm sure everyone is going to bemoan. But I don't care. We need a window. It's absolutely imperative. There we are. Right, so that's the center point. Now, we're going to be able to place quite a fair bit of electronic warfare on this, and perhaps we should build out a little bit of an area at the back specifically for that. I'm not really thinking too much in regards to things like electroplates. I'm thinking of going mostly with actual armor for this one. So we can have a... Let's see, we'll need a T5 radar receiver. We're not going to be able to fit a T7 because that would be over-tiered. I probably will be adding some shaped components to this as well. That is the rounded components. In fact, the legs seem to be a very nice place for that. But for the time being. Let me just see. How much higher do we need to be? We need to be a little bit higher than this for that to work. If we just use these sloped components, the prisms for now, then we'll build that out on that side and then have a little bit of a cage over the radar receiver perhaps. There we go, because then we can have a plasma right on top, and that little antenna there sticks out quite nicely, I think. Also add a little bit of shaping right at the back there. Now that is obviously vulnerable for being attacked directly from the back, which is not especially ideal, but it'll certainly work for now. I'm trying not to make this too landship-like, simply because I know that we'll run into CPU issues if I do. So right now we're going to have possibly some plasmas out here. This might be a little bit of a plasma nest right on the end there. We could certainly have a look at that. We can place that on there now. Let's see. So T6 plasmas. We need to bring that out just a little bit more for that to work for us. So let's get rid of that and instead bring this all the way out like so. And then see if the T6 plasmas will fit there. Yes, they will. But we do not have enough of them. That seems to be a running theme for this particular episode. We'll grab 3 of them there. I know I've got plenty on other bots, so that should be fine. There we go. So that gives us 2 for the time being. There we go. Right. Now then, we'll just shape that off slightly. So that's our first plasma location. Now, down around here we want the second. We want it lower down so that it won't interfere with firing of the upper tier. And we could probably have these... Actually, if we do this instead, like so... we can build it out and have a bit more of a rounded shape to it. Okay, there we go. That's the basic shape for the middle set of plasmas. Now, this is starting to look a little bit bare bones, honestly, so I'm not entirely satisfied with that. So let's try and address that a little bit here and there, shall we? Let's use that there to curve that off. Same over there. Then we can place a couple of prisms down and just generally improve the shape a little bit around these areas. I think we'll probably end up expanding this out at least to 3 wide going along here. So we may as well put that in now. And I'm quite a fan, you may have noticed, of having nice kind of angled shapes to the front of my bot. So let's put in a bit of a shape down here as well. We'll have that curve over and then have a little bit of a beak. It wouldn't be one of my bots if it didn't have a beak. Now, the rear isn't looking too terribly bad. It is still a little bit, well, a little bit bare bones, but we can probably live with that, honestly. We could even bring this out all the way and then have it curve in there. Okay, that's actually got a fairly nice shape, all things told. I actually quite like this one now. Add that one there, maybe? No, not particularly that one, though. Let's build this out at the back a little bit as well, and just generally smooth things out where we can. We'll have that one there as well, and just fold that in there. Alright, there we go. That's actually starting to come together now. Little by little, it's starting to come together. A little bit more shaping there, maybe even a little bit of shaping in here as well, just because. No, I'd rather the shaping be at the top than at the bottom. Alright, so the plasmas are fairly well positioned. These ones will be able to shoot over the tops of these ones. Now, unfortunately, both sides are going to shoot at something in the middle, which is a bit of a shame. But we've got this conspicuous kind of platform over here upon which we can build another plasma. So we can have a plasma there, and if we really want, we can have a plasma right at the front. We kind of do want to have a plasma right at the front, honestly. Next up, we could... Well, the other thing is we could have a radar up there, but I'm not too keen on that, honestly. It's the obvious place, and I don't like putting things in the obvious places. We'll place it there instead. We'll also build that up a little bit. We're increasing the structural integrity of the bot all the time, just finding new places where we can add little connectors, just to make it a little bit harder to disconnect any particular part of the bot, which is always worth doing when you're looking back over the bot and just seeing if there's anything more that you can do. Always bear in mind, well, how easily would it be for someone to completely disconnect an important section? For example, my wheels. And right now, it wouldn't be too hard for them to do it. So by adding just that little bit there, we've significantly increased the survivability of those components. I do want to flesh this out a little bit more, though, as well. There we go. The bottom of the bot is starting to look interesting. We've got some interesting spaces down there. Let's have a look if we've got anything that we can fit in there. We've got a T5 radar jammer that we could probably just sneak in. Right about there. And maybe even another one. There we go. 2 T5 radar jammers as well on this little plasma cruiser. Now, the front is still lacking something. There's still a certain something that it doesn't have. And I'm not really sure what that is yet. My creativity hasn't spoken loud enough for me to hear it. Let's also just flesh this out a little bit more, just because we can. There we go. Giving some nice shapes at the back there. Very, very nice shapes indeed. Actually, can we add this in there? Oh, we can. That was unexpected. Very unexpected. Let's go ahead and grab one of these. There we go. Yes, I quite like that now. Quite like that. But we're still wondering about the front, or at least I should be. How about we do something a little bit like this, giving the front just a little bit more shape to it. Now, we could add a couple of minor embellishments, such as flags, vapor trails, all those sorts of things that will make a bot kind of stand out and be your own design. But you shouldn't overlook the effect of color. Now, I'm not sure if we're going to be able to use T7 armor cubes on this and still remain. No, we're not, unfortunately. But we could easily drop down to T5 or T3s. Now, what I would recommend with this is don't use them anywhere where you actually need some sort of connection, where it's an important feature. But by all means, you could go around and just embellish the design a little bit here and there. Things like this. And that kind of brings it out a little bit, adds a little bit more color, a little bit more distinction to the shapes that you've added on. We can take that one out and actually allow this to be fleshed out a little bit more. In fact, you know what? Let's just pop those in there. I think that actually looks quite nice. Yeah, actually, I don't mind that. That doesn't seem too bad. Right, the last few things that we can add in then, as I mentioned, are things like the speedometer. Now, there should be a few spots that I could put that. I could put that there, but I'd rather just move the whole radar forward for that one. There we go. We aren't going to need an altimeter because we're not going to be in the sky, or at least we shouldn't be. If we are, then it's a bit of a mistake. We will have, of course, a flag. And the flag... Well, usually I like symmetry with these sorts of things. 2 flags there would be nice. We could have 2 flags running down the side, perhaps. That actually might be nice as well, but it may impair my aiming. And we don't really want to sacrifice aim for that. We could build this out a little bit. Have a little bit of a rounded base, perhaps. Ooh, I'm going to need to buy those cubes. I'm not even sure I have the money for it. Oh, how embarrassing. Oh well, we're just not going to be buying those cubes then. What we'll do is we'll just have a regular little base at the back here for our flag. And then, of course, the all-important Wapper trails, without which our bot would be significantly handicapped. Let's see. Ooh, That's actually a fairly nice little place, though it's getting close to the floor there. I'm not sure I like that. I think I would prefer it to be a little bit higher up. Perhaps. Maybe even we could fit these in there. Yes, we can. Okay. Now that is looking nice. That is looking very nice. Now, I do not have any thrusters on this design. I've gone purely for a plasma cruiser. I didn't want to become too fancy with things like thrusters and turning and all that sort of stuff, simply because I was asked just to make a plasma cruiser, so that I really wanted to try and focus on that one guiding design, and that is just weapons, plasmas, and movement type cruiser. Actually, is that nice? Yeah, no, I'm not sure about that. We can pull it back perhaps up just a little bit, and it might become nice. Maybe. I'm not sure. That might just be adding things for people to shoot, really. So what we could do instead is something like this. We build that out like so. There we go. That isn't too bad. Now we can replace this one with that, perhaps. No. No, we'll go with this. I think we've added enough. Perhaps the last thing we can add, though. A couple of headlights. You know, because you always want headlights. You want to be able to see. You want to be a responsible driver. 2 headlights on the front. We can have them on all of the wheels if we really wanted to. It is a little bit of fun in doing something like that. Since we can afford the CPU at the moment without going into the next tier, we might as well. We can have 2 at the very back as well. We'll spread them out a little bit. We don't want them right up to the component there and underneath the plasmas. Oh no, there we are. That's a lot, I'm afraid. We'll take these ones from the back. There we go. So that is the very first T6 plasma cruiser built for the Dapper build series. And of course, I'm going to have to give this bot a name. And given that I used Logan Tippy's suggestion, we will call it Logan. Well, there we have it. The Logan is almost ready for us to send out. Now, there are a few things to keep in mind with the Logan. And that is, well, the primary one is how vulnerable the wheels are. And that's kind of by design in a way. Although I haven't added thrusters and things like that, things that you would typically think of a fast capture bot, I kind of have in mind with the Logan that it's either A, going to be behind the front line shelling the enemy, or B, primarily focusing on capturing points, because as you get overclock levels, especially as your protonivity escalates, plasma becomes amazing at taking out crystals. Like, it's probably the weapon for taking towers and for taking the reactor late game. So that would be the main role, the main focus of the Logan, is to get in there, attack certain points, and then get out. But we need to test this out, see how maneuverable it is, how fast it is. We don't have any thrusters, so we don't know its speed. But then, as you gain overclock levels, you will naturally gather speed as well. So we'll find out what its top speed is. Basic, just going straight forward, sub 100 miles an hour. That's actually not good. And it's quite stable. I'm not able to oversteer and then tip. It doesn't seem to want to tip in any way. But I am noticing that kind of like having too much stability in your aerofoils, it is struggling to turn a little bit, and that's possibly because I've got 4 drive wheels in the middle and only have my turning wheels at the front and the very back. Maybe I could address this somewhat by moving that around. Really, a scout walker upside down. Aren't you meant to walk, not slide? Aren't I meant to hit things, not just shoot over them? I suppose could be the retort. There we go. Let's give you a little bit of help. This is a mercy killing, honestly. There we go. Let's just put you out of your misery. You know what? No, you're happy now. You can keep on your way. But we're getting a little bit of increase in speed as we gain overclock levels. We're up to... we're just over 100 miles per hour. I imagine you'd probably be seeing a top speed of somewhere like 140, 160. 160 might be pushing it. Maybe 150 at overclock 13. But I couldn't tell you for certain. But I'm actually trying to oversteer right now, because that is one of the big issues I have with a lot of my designs. And it's why I often have the middle wheels displaced slightly wider than the rest of the wheels is to try and help with that. But the Logan flat out does not want to tip. And that is really nice. That turn there, if I'd been that aggressive with some of my other cruisers, they would have flat out been rolling. But okay, I think I know what we can do to just address that slight bit of a little bit too stableness. I know that sounds really silly, but let's place that there, take it off. Oops. Because I didn't have the mirror line when I came back from the practice arena, I needed to just take that away. There we go. That might help us a little bit. I could add thrusters to help with the sear, but again, not really interested in that, if I'm perfectly honest. One thing I am a little bit concerned about, though, perhaps we could do this. Perhaps we could just tweak you in a little bit. So there we are. That's really not going to make much difference because odds are, if anything hits the front, it's going to get rid of those wheels. But now we've got steering wheels back here as well. It doesn't matter as much if we lose all of the front, which is going to be a bit of a bonus to us. Now, as to the continuation of the Dapper build series, on the screen right about now, you should see 2 annotations which relate to previous suggestions for bot designs that I received in the comments of other videos, and you can click on one or the other annotation to register your interest in seeing me build that bot. Of course, if you're a mobile user and you can't click on annotations, I will be leaving 2 comments in the video's comments below that you can reply to that will specifically be for interest in one or the other bot design. So you can just scroll down, find the comment relating to the bot that you want to see built, and just leave a reply in that comment thread, or just thumbs up the comment if you can. Any bot suggestions left on this video will be used for the next video's vote. So if you have any ideas for a good bot, or just want to see me try to build something interesting, it could be an art bot, it could be a functional bot, I don't really mind which, then do leave me a comment below. That, though, understand, art bot at the moment are not particularly feasible as combat bots. So if it is going to be an art bot, it will probably be something that I just build in the garage and don't take anywhere beyond that. But I don't mind giving a try at making some pretty robots if you would like to see me do that. But that is going to be the end of this episode. I do hope you've enjoyed, and I hope you'll be joining me for the next. But until then, from myself and the Logan, do take care.